The Turk who made the last conquests in Ottoman history is Köprülü Fazıl Ahmed Pasha. The Ottoman Empire reached its most extreme borders with his conquests and became its largest geography. After these conquests of Köprülü Fazıl Ahmet Pasha, the Ottoman state could no longer seize new lands, and after that it gradually entered into periods of hesitation and regression. Köprülü Fazıl Ahmet Pasha was born in 1635 in Vizier. His mother is Ayşe Hanım, the daughter of Voivoda Yusuf Aga. His father Köprülü Mehmet Pasha was illiterate. But he wanted his son to get a good education and become a good scholar. For this reason, he came to Istanbul with his father at the age of 7 and began to receive education from the most distinguished scholars of the time. Drawing attention with his intelligence, Ahmet started his academic career as a professor at the age of 16. After a while, he was disturbed by the rumors that his father was taking advantage of his population and left his academic career halfway to become a property owner. After his education, he was appointed to the governorship of Erzurum at the age of 24 in Damascus after 2 years. In these two cities, he was admired for his attitude towards the people and especially the tax cuts that reduced the burden of the people. He also made a name for himself with the various rebellions he finished here. He was appreciated by Mehmet IV with his achievements. He was nicknamed Fazil because he was mild-mannered and understanding. He was called to the center due to his father's illness in 1660 and went to Edirne and was appointed as the governor of the Grand Vizier at the age of 26. He later became Grand Vizier at the age of 27 and became the youngest Grand Vizier. Vizier in Ottoman history. Fazıl Ahmet Pasha, who remained in this position for 15 years, became one of the most important Grand Viziers and most valuable statesmen in Ottoman history. Despite the great expeditions made since his father's time, the Ottoman finances continued to give a surplus in his own time. He also made major reforms in the military and financial fields. The first thing he did after he became Grand Vizier was to go on an Austrian expedition. Austria's raids on Ottoman lands created the need for intervention here. Pasha, who was prepared in a short time and supported by a force of 120,000 people, nearly 200 cannons and the Crimean forces with the title of Serdar-i-Ekrem, came across Austria's demand for peace when he arrived in Belgrade. He imposed on the ambassador the condition that Austria should evacuate the castles it occupied, destroy some of the castles on the border, release all Muslim captives, and accept the Ottoman supremacy of Austria and pay a tax of 30,000 gold per year. In statutory time, when the envoys announced that the Austrian emperor could not accept these conditions, the Pasha besieged the Ivar castle in mid-August, and Suleiman the Magnificent could not take it. During the siege of Ivar, the region turned into a swamp as a result of the rains, which forced the Ottoman armies. Despite this, Köprülü Pasha gained a great reputation in Europe with his attitude towards his soldiers, the privileges he gave to the Christian people after he captured the city, and his gentlemanliness caused the expression, strong like a Turk, to be used in French. Fazıl Ahmet Pasha, who marched to Vienna after the conquest of Ivar, caused a great panic in Europe. Austria then sought help from Europe. Without wasting time, he provided military and financial aid to the papacy. The army gathered under the command of the famous Austrian commander Raimondo Montecuccoli was ready in 1664. After the Ottoman armies spent the winter making preparations, they embarked on the German campaign in the spring. And he advanced by conquering many castles, large and small. Although the troops faced each other in July, they could not gain the upper hand. So the parties had to sit at the table. However, in the agreement made, the Ottomans made Austria accept its superiority. After Fazıl Ahmet Pasha consolidated the Ottoman dominance in Erdil, he wanted to march on Vienna. Thus, Köprülü Pasha attacked the Austrian army, which did not disperse, for the second time, and both sides suffered mutual losses. Later, due to the deficiencies in transportation and the approach of winter, Köprülü Pasha gave up and returned to Istanbul. Köprülü then headed for the conquest of Crete, which could not be taken for 21 years. The Grand Vizier, who left Edirne on May 15, 1666, promised the Sultan that he would not return without taking Crete. Therefore, Pasha was in Crete for 3 years apart from the Grand Vizierate. These 3 years, separated from the Grand Viziership, were the longest uninterrupted campaign of a Grand Vizier in Ottoman history. In response to the Ottoman siege of 70,000 people on Crete, the Venetians on the island received support from the Pope. In the negotiations, Köprülü stated that he would not make peace unless the castle was handed over to the Ottomans, and focused on sewer and tunnel activities. The sewer wars had taken place in countless tunnels under the city. Köprülü Pasha stayed for months in 2 small cells he had opened underground to support the soldiers. In front of the castle, a peace offer came to Köprülü, who continued the siege by pouring new cannons. It was proposed to lift the siege on the condition of paying a tax of 20,000 gold per year. However, the Pasha refused the offer, saying that they would make peace only on the condition of surrender. Upon the prolongation of the siege, Sultan Mehmet IV sent a letter to the Pasha, declaring that, if the siege is prolonged, he will not be able to support it economically next year. Upon this letter, Köprülü stated that he would not return until the conquest took place, even though he was deeply saddened. Realizing that they could not come to an agreement with Köprülü, the Venetian ambassadors met directly with the Sultan and presented a new offer. According to the offer, they would give 24,000 gold per year and some castles on the Adriatic coast. The Sultan conveyed this attractive offer to the Pasha. However, Fazıl Ahmet Pasha again received a refusal. Fazıl Ahmet Pasha, who showed his determination by spending the winter in the trenches, was rewarded for his stubbornness on September 5, 1669. As a result of his long efforts, he succeeded in capturing Crete. According to the signed 18-article agreement, the condition of paying tribute to Venice was introduced. Fazıl Ahmet Pasha, who received the title of Conqueror of Crete with this conquest, returned to Istanbul by realizing one of the greatest conquests of Turkish history in the Mediterranean. Köprülü decided to go on a new expedition with the dust of his feet to solve the Polish problem that started when he was in Crete. Köprülü, who wanted to be with him and support him in an important part of the expedition, was Mehmet IV. He went on a Polish expedition with Sultan Mehmed, and this time he conquered many castles and made the Bucas Agreement. In the agreement made, a heavy tax was brought to Poland and it was ensured that it accepted the Ottoman supremacy definitively. Then he marched on the capital of Ukraine, Cherson. Here, after the expulsion of the Russians from Ukraine, he completed his expedition and returned. These expeditions were one of the longest-ranged land expeditions in Ottoman history. The achievements, especially the Bucas Agreement, were the most extreme points that the Ottomans reached in the north. Returning from the Polish expedition, Fazıl Ahmet Pasha did not pay any attention to his own health because of the wars. And in the process, his health had deteriorated considerably. He could not even preside over the council. However, his will to win still prevailed. While he was making preparations for the expedition again without resting, while moving from Istanbul to Edirne, he died in his most productive age and at a very young age, at the age of 41. His death was a great loss for Ottoman history. It was understood from the sources that the cause of death was fatigue and weariness due to overwork. Köprülü, who served as the Grand Vizier for 15 years uninterruptedly and was one of the longest serving in this position, spent 9 years of his 15 years in an actual campaign. Upon his death, his brother-in-law, Mirzifanlu Kara Mustafa Pasha, was appointed as the Grand Vizier as a sign of the satisfaction and trust felt in him. I hope you enjoyed the video. Until we see you in the next video, take care and goodbye.